My mom gave my daughter's birthday gifts, still wrapped, to my sister's kids. They're younger, they'll enjoy them more. My daughter was standing right there. I picked up our coats. Time to go, my mom yelled. You're overreacting, I replied. Check your bank app. I'd just updated the auto pay on her car loan. My daughter was still carefully lining up paper plates when my mom decided to blow up the moment and call it helping. Dad, look. Harper tugged my sleeve with sticky fingers, very proud. She'd drawn little hearts on each plate with a purple marker. 7 plates, 7 hearts, 7 candles waiting in the kitchen for her dinosaur cake. I watched her count under her breath, lips moving. 1 for me. 1 for Aunt Lily. 1 for Nana. It was a Thursday night in late March, 6:42 p.m., Cleveland, Ohio. I'd just come off a 12-hour paramedic shift, and my brain still smelled like diesel and antiseptic. But I was standing in my mother's living room, not the back of the rig, and tonight was supposed to be easy. Just family. Just cake. My mom swept in from the hallway holding a big gift bag covered in glitter balloons. Okay, she sang out. Presents first, then cake. The kids are too excited to wait. The kids were my daughter Harper and my sister Lily's boys, Max and Eli. 4 and 3. Currently doing laps around the coffee table like they'd been huffing frosting in the garage. Harper looked up at me. Can we do cake after? She asked. I want to see what Grandma got me. You got it, Bug, I said. My mom set the bag down on the coffee table. I recognized the wrapping paper inside immediately because I'd wrapped it. 2 days ago, on my kitchen counter at 1 a.m., after a double. I'd ordered the gifts a month in advance. The art set she'd been begging for, the one with 80 markers and a little easel. A blue instant camera with rainbow film. The book series about the girl detective paramedic she'd circled in the catalog so many times the page had ripped. Harper reached for the first box, fingers trembling just a little. She's 7, but when she's excited, she goes quiet. That's always how I know it really matters. Hang on, my mom said, catching her hand midair. Her tone was light, reasonable, like she was stopping a kid from touching a hot stove. Actually, sweetheart, those aren't for you anymore. My mouth went dry. What? I said. Max and Eli skidded to a stop. Harper froze, still half-bent, hand hovering over the tissue paper. My mom pulled the art set out of the bag and turned to my nephews with a bright, generous smile. Max, baby, this one's for you. And Eli, you get this one. She handed the camera box to Eli. He squealed, clutching it to his chest. Harper just stared. Mom, I said, voice low. What are you doing? Lily, my sister, shifted on the couch, suddenly fascinated by a spot on the wall. Mom thought, she started. My mom cut in, still smiling, still soft. They're younger, she said. They'll enjoy them more. Harper's past this phase. Harper's eyes snapped to my face. She didn't look angry. She looked blank, like her brain had taken one big step backward to protect itself. But, you said those were mine, she whispered. You show me the picture. I know, sweetheart, my mom cooed. But you have plenty of things. You don't need more clutter. Let's not be greedy. Greedy. I felt my pulse jump the way it does when the monitor suddenly flatlines. My hands didn't shake. Years of starting IVs in the back of a moving truck will train that out of you. But my mouth went chalk dry. Give them back, I said. Calm. Very calm. Those are Harper's birthday gifts. My mom's smile tightened. Ashton, don't be ridiculous. They haven't even opened them. We'll get her something more appropriate later. Maybe a savings bond. Something for her future. Max had already started tearing the paper. The art set Harper had talked about every day for 2 weeks was half unwrapped in his hands. Harper took a half step back, bunny socks slipping on the hardwood. It's okay, she said quickly, that horrible grown-up tone in a 7-year-old mouth. They can have it. I don't want it. Yeah, she wanted it. I watched her say she didn't because that was easier than begging. My mom heard that and brightened, taking it as proof she was right. See, she said, waving one hand like we were in court and she'd just closed arguments. She's being very mature. My brain counted. 1 kid whose birthday it was, 2 nephews, 3 gifts I'd paid for adults in the room. 0 people willing to act like this was insane except me. I bent down, picked up Harper's little denim jacket from the back of the chair, and held it out to her. Harper, I said. Coat on. We're leaving. She blinked. But cake. We'll do cake at home. Harper slid into her jacket without arguing. which told me everything I needed to know about how safe she felt here. Behind me, my mom's voice sharpened. Ashton, stop. You're overreacting. It's just stuff. Don't ruin the night over a few toys. I turned back, met her eyes, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like a kid standing in front of the principal. I felt like the guy who holds the clipboard and calls the time of death. I'm not ruining anything, I said. I picked my keys up off the counter. Check your bank app. My mom frowned, pulling her phone from her pocket on reflex. What are you? I didn't scream. I tell myself every time I replay that moment. I didn't throw anything. I didn't beg. I just walked Harper to the door while my mother realized, in real time, that the automatic payment for her car loan, my card, my money, had disappeared. I'm Ashton, 33, paramedic in Cleveland. Divorced, 1 kid, 1 2-bedroom rental that always smells faintly like coffee and rubbing alcohol. I didn't start out paying my mother's car loan. That's the thing about this kind of slow-motion mess. It never starts at the end. It starts with one temporary favor. After my divorce 2 years ago, Harper and I moved back into my parents' house for a few months. My mom's words. Temporary, until I got back on my feet. Family helps family, she said. Don't make it transactional, she said. We're all in this together, she said. I wanted to believe her. I was working nights on the ambulance, Harper was 5, and I was doing custody exchanges in the parking lot of a McDonald's with my ex, who thought child support was optional. Believing my parents were on my side was easier than admitting I was alone. The first incident was small. I'd worked at 24, came home bone-tired, and found Harper's favorite stuffed fox missing from her bed. She was wandering the hallway, quietly checking closets like she was solving a crime. Where's Foxy? She asked my mom. Oh, sweetheart, your cousin wanted to borrow him, my mom said. You don't mind sharing, do you? No one had asked her. Foxy never came back. Second incident. I walked into the living room one Saturday and found Harper's piggy bank smashed on the coffee table. Coins spread out in neat piles. Max and Eli giggling on the floor. Mom, I said. My mother didn't look guilty. She looked practical. Relax, she said. We're teaching them about money. Harper doesn't need all this. We'll replace it. They never did. Harper learned to hide new coins in old shoe boxes. Third incident was bigger. My mom pulled me aside in the kitchen one night. We've been talking, she said, which in my family is code for a decision has been made without you. She laid it out calmly. My monthly contribution to the household wasn't enough. If I added another $300 a month, she'd help by handling her own car payment. You're driving more than anyone, she said. What if something happens and I can't get to work? We're all relying on that car. I ran the numbers. My ex was behind again. I was already picking up extra shifts. But I also knew the feeling of waiting for a bus in winter at 4 a.m. after a shift. I caved. I set up an auto pay from my account to hers. That's how it started. The pattern grew around it. If I missed one dinner because of an overtime call, we're doing all this for you and Harper, my mom would say. The least you can do is show up. If I asked her not to give Harper soda at 9 p.m., don't be so controlling, she'd sigh. You're overreacting. If Harper cried when Max grabbed toys out of her hands, you're older, my mom would tell her. Be smooth. Let it go. Smooth. That was her favorite word. Not kind, not fair, smooth. As in, we want things smooth when Lily's here. Don't start anything. Little by little, my life shrank to fit their convenience. I worked, I paid, I apologized for being tired and for asking basic things like, can Harper have her own shelf in the fridge? And Harper learned to shrink faster. She stopped asking to sit on my dad's lap during movies because he always pulled Max up instead. She started saying, it's okay, before anyone could tell her it should be. She kept her drawings in a folder under her bed because they get messy on the fridge when the boys touch them. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself once I got promotions, once I cleared this one medical bill, once my ex got his act together, everything would even out. It didn't. Instead, I found myself paying for a car I didn't drive, listening to my mother call my emergencies inconvenient and my boundaries attacks, all while she posted photos of herself and Lily's boys with captions like, family is everything. The receipts started stacking up long before I thought of them as receipts. Bank transfers labeled mom car, Venmo notes, food for kids, texts from my mom saying, I know you just got paid. Can you send a little extra? I used to swallow it. I told myself she'd help me when I needed a place to land, so I owed her. I told myself this was what good sons do. And then I watched her take my daughter's birthday presents, still wrapped, and hand them to other kids in front of her face. Something in me that had been on life support for years sat up, looked around, and said, very clearly, absolutely not. We didn't even make it to the end of the block before my phone started buzzing. First, the texts. Mom, Ashton, bring her back. You're making a scene over nothing. Mom, she said she didn't care. She's fine. Mom, we can talk about it calmly when you're done being dramatic. Lily, you scared the boys. They're crying now. Lily again. Mom was just trying to be fair. You always think the worst of her. In the rearview mirror, Harper was hugging her backpack to her chest like a life jacket, watching the streetlights flick past. You okay, bug? I asked. She shrugged, eyes shiny. I shouldn't have told Grandma what I wanted, she said. Then she wouldn't be mad. There it was. Not, I'm mad they took my gifts. I caused this. I gripped the steering wheel. A week before, I'd been doing chest compressions on a stranger in a grocery store parking lot. That felt simpler than explaining to my kid why her own grandmother was treating her like a spare part. Hey, I said. Look at me. She met my eyes in the mirror. You did nothing wrong. Grown-ups made bad choices. That's not on you. She nodded too fast, the way kids do when they don't quite believe you but desperately want to. At home, after I got her in the bath and into her favorite dinosaur pajamas, I sat at the kitchen table with my phone and opened my banking app. Recurring payments. Mom car, $275/month. Next withdrawal, tomorrow. I tapped edit. Card, remove. Auto pay, cancel. It felt exactly like cutting a line in the back of the rig. The whoosh of release you hear after clamping something that's been bleeding too long. Wave 1, private pressure. It started the next morning at 6:03 a.m., right as I was lacing my boots for my shift. Mom, my car payment bounced. Is your bank being weird again? I took a screenshot of the canceled auto pay confirmation and texted it back. Me. I turned it off. She called immediately. I let it go to voicemail. She called again. I answered on the third ring because paramedics are wired to pick up when phones scream. How could you do this? She snapped. No hello. No good morning. I'm not paying for your car anymore, I said. I need that money for Harper and for us to move. You're punishing me. I'm setting a boundary. You're overreacting over a couple of toys, she said. You embarrassed me in front of your sister and the boys. My daughter watched you give away her birthday presents because you decided she'd enjoy them less. We're done. You wouldn't even have a roof without us, she said. I took you in when your wife left. I watched Harper when you were on those night shifts. This is how you repay me. There it was. The ledger she always kept hidden but never stopped updating. I appreciate the help you gave, I said. I'm still not paying your loan. You're going to let my car get repossessed? I'm going to let you be responsible for your own bills. You're unbelievable, she hissed. I raised you better than this. Family doesn't just walk away. Maybe not, I said. But they don't steal from 7-year-olds either. I hung up before she could respond. My hands were steady. My stomach wasn't. Wave 2, practical harm. A week later, I picked Harper up from school, and she came out with her shoulders curled in. No backpack. Where's your bag? I asked. Grandma took it, she said. She was early. She said I didn't need 2 sets of supplies, and she'd keep the markers at her house, so the boys can use them, too. I closed my eyes for one slow second because if I didn't, I was going to start yelling in front of the school doors. She what? She said you wouldn't mind, Harper added quickly. She said you always want to share. My mom had apparently signed her out of aftercare as an approved pickup. Technically true. I'd put both my parents on the form back when I thought we were all still on the same team. I drove straight to my parents' house. Didn't text, didn't call. I walked in the front door with Harper's hand in mine and the calm of someone about to do a high-risk procedure. My dad was in his recliner, TV blaring. My mom was at the table with Max and Eli. My daughter's backpack sat on the floor by the pantry, open, her new markers spread out like community property. Hey, my mom said, that bright, fake cheery voice. You could knock. Where's the school backpack that I bought for Harper with the supplies that I labeled with her name? I asked. She blinked. Excuse me. You heard me. My mother exhaled dramatically. Ashton, we don't have to make this ugly. She doesn't need all of that stuff. The boys. Where is her backpack? In the laundry room, she snapped finally. Calm down. I walked past her, grabbed the bag, and started putting every single thing with Harper's name on it back inside. The boys whined. "Those are ours now," Max said. "No," I said. "They're not." My mom followed me, voice sharp. "You're being petty. They were just using them. You're making Harper selfish. This is why we say you're dramatic." I zipped the backpack, swung it onto my shoulder, and turned to Harper. "Go wait by the door, Bug." She obeyed instantly, shoulders hunched. The child goes quiet moment. I hated how familiar it already looked on her. I turned back to my mother. "Here's what's going to happen," I said, still quiet. "You're not picking Harper up from school anymore. Your name is coming off the emergency list. You're not rehoming her things. You're not using my kid to stock your house. You can't cut us off from our granddaughter," she said, scandalized. "We love her." "Then act like it." She laughed, ugly and short. "You're going to regret this," she said. "When you're drowning and you need us again, don't come crawling." That's when I stopped arguing and started documenting. I went home, pulled out my laptop, and opened a new folder. Mom, financial/Harper, boundaries. Screenshots of the auto pay. Photos of the gifted away presents on the boys' laps. Copies of text threads where she called Harper dramatic and too sensitive. A photo of the school form with her name on the pickup list. I wasn't planning revenge. I was planning clarity. Because if there's one thing my job has taught me, it's this. When things go bad, the story people tell later will not match what actually happened. You'd better have it written down. The breaking point didn't happen in their living room. It happened in an office with flickering fluorescent lights and a bowl of stale peppermints. Legal aid, downtown. Tuesday, 3:15 p.m. "You're a paramedic?" the attorney asked, glancing at my badge clipped to my belt. "Yeah," I said. "Schedule's rough. Sorry if I smell like the back of a truck." She smiled once, quick. "I've smelled worse," she said. "So, tell me what's going on with your parents." I laid it out, piece by piece. Not the dramatized version, the charting version. Dates, amounts, behaviors. When we moved in. When I started paying the car loan. The piggy bank. Foxy. The birthday gifts. The backpack. The texts. She listened, pen moving, only interrupting twice to ask, "Do you still have that in writing?" Each time, I slid my phone across the desk and opened the relevant screenshot. "Okay," she said finally. "Here's what you're asking, even if you haven't said it yet. You want to know how to draw a line without ending up in a courtroom as the ungrateful son who cut off his kid from loving grandparents." I exhaled. "That about covers it." She nodded. "So we make the line boring and official. No drama. No speeches. We drafted a letter. 3, actually. One to my parents, stating clearly that as of a specific date, I would no longer be contributing to their car loan or any other bills, and that any future financial help would need to be discussed and agreed upon in writing. One to the school, removing my parents as emergency contacts and authorized pickup people, citing ongoing custody and boundary concerns. One to my ex, modifying our informal schedule into something more structured, with a line that made my chest loosen when I read it. Maternal and paternal grandparents are not to act as custodians or make educational/medical decisions without written consent of the parents. The attorney slid the draft of the first letter back to me. "You can email this yourself, or we can send it certified," she said. Certified gets their attention. I thought of my mom laughing at the airport in that other universe where she got everything she wanted. I thought of Harper whispering, "I don't want it," while staring at her own stolen gifts. "Certified," I said. We left the office with a case number for the custody modification and a plan. Nothing explosive, just paper. But paper changes things. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with Harper's crayons scattered between us while she drew a paramedic dinosaur. "Is Grandma mad at us?" she asked suddenly. "She's mad at me," I said. "That's an adult problem. Is it cause of the toys?" "It's cause she forgot how to be kind," I said. "And I remembered I'm your dad first." She colored in the dinosaur's tiny helmet. "Are we still going there on Sundays?" "Not for a while," I said. "We're going to make new traditions. Maybe pancakes at home. Or movie night." She thought for a second. "Can it be both?" "Yeah," I said. "It can be both." 3 days later, the letters landed. I know because my phone blew up. Group chat. Family. "Mom. Ashton, what I asked this." "Dad, this is extreme. We could have talked." "Lily. You're making Mom sick over a misunderstanding." "Mom again, we did so much for you. We gave you a home. How dare you threaten us with lawyers?" I typed exactly one message. Me. The letters are not threats. They're clarity. Please direct future comments to my attorney. Then I muted the chat. The real breaking point came 2 days after that. Saturday afternoon, I was on shift when dispatch lit up with a familiar address, my parents' street. Adrenaline hit first, logic second. We rolled out, sirens cutting through traffic. I told myself it was a coincidence. I told myself it could be any house on the block. It wasn't. We pulled up and my mom was already on the porch, clutching her chest like she'd rehearsed it. Dad hovered behind her, looking both worried and furious. I did my job. I checked her vitals, asked the questions, did the EKG. She was fine, blood pressure up, heart racing, but no cardiac event. Anxiety, panic, fear, whatever name she wanted to give it later. I spoke calmly, documented thoroughly. Everything looks okay, I said. Follow up with your doctor. She grabbed my wrist as I turned to go. You did this, she hissed under her breath, voice too low for my partner to hear. You're killing me with this stress. Your little legal games. I looked down at her hand on my arm and thought about my daughter's hand in mine the night of the party. The difference in weight. Ma'am, I said, loud enough for my partner and my dad to hear. Please don't grab the medic while he's working. Her grip loosened like I'd burned her. My dad's face went red. Outside, loading equipment back into the rig, my partner asked, You good, man? Yeah, I said. Just overdue. That night, after my shift, I changed the last thing that still tethered us. I called the bank and removed myself as a backup contact on my parents' car loan. I'd co-signed years ago when my dad's credit was in the toilet. The woman on the phone confirmed twice. So you understand that if they miss payments, you're not on the hook, she said. That's the idea. When I hung up, I stood in my quiet kitchen, the fridge humming, Harper asleep down the hall, and felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Final. The next morning, my mom was pounding on my apartment door at 8:03 a.m. I opened it just enough to step into the hallway, blocking her view inside. You went to the bank? She demanded. You're trying to ruin us. What kind of son does that? Behind her, my dad shifted his weight, eyes darting around like he hoped the neighbors weren't listening. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't list the receipts. I didn't hold up my phone and read her own words back to her. I just said the sentence I'd been walking toward since the moment she took those gifts out of the bag. You're not entitled to my money, I said, or my kid. Then I closed the door and locked it. The irreversible step had already happened on paper. This was just the sound of it clicking into place. Our new normal isn't fancy. It's a 2-bedroom over a laundromat that smells like warm cotton on Thursdays. The walls are thin, the water's slow to heat, but I can afford it on my own. We do pancake and movie Sundays. Harper lives in her dinosaur pajamas and builds blanket forts. Sometimes I fall asleep halfway through and wake up with her using my arm as a pillow, credits looping in the dark. On her 8th birthday, we did a trampoline park party. For kids from school, a sheet cake, a stack of presents that all went home in our car. She opened a smaller version of the art set she'd lost the year before. Is this mine? She asked. All yours, I said. Nobody else's. She hugged it like it might disappear and just said, Thank you. Then started planning what she'd draw first. My parents weren't there. The guests were co-workers, her teacher, our downstairs neighbor. Chosen people. A month after the letters, a box showed up. For Harper, from Nana. Let's start over. Big, expensive toy. Harper stared at it. Can I keep it? She asked. Do you want to? It's from Nana, she said. But I don't want to go back there. You don't have to. We kept the toy. I texted my mother. Harper appreciates the gift. Contact stays limited. No surprise visits. Any relationship will be gradual, supervised, on Harper's terms. She answered with a wall of guilt, and we're family, and you can't erase us. I didn't reply. When my dad called to say freezing them out wasn't fair, I told him he'd watched it happen and never stopped it. I'd talk when they could both name what they'd done. Until then, the space stays. For now, safety is a small apartment, a kid who knows her gifts won't be taken, and a dad who understands that being a good son doesn't mean funding bad behavior. Love isn't a subscription you can't cancel. Access to me, and to my daughter, isn't a family right. It's a privilege. You're allowed to turn off the auto pay on other people's entitlement, and you don't have to raise your voice for it to count. What this story teaches. When family takes your child's gifts and calls you dramatic for objecting, they've shown you their priorities. Ashton stopped funding his mother's car loan after she gave Harper's birthday presents to other kids. The lesson: you're allowed to cancel auto pay on people's entitlement. Protecting your child means letting family experience life without your subsidies. Access to you isn't a family right. It's a privilege earned through respect, not purchased through guilt.